we focus a lot on preparing the body, supporting the key organs and glands that are designed to help eliminate toxicity. Those would be your liver, your kidneys, your colon, the lymphatic system. Because if we go straight into trying to detox someone, whether it's a heavy metal, a chemical, or a hidden infection, it can be a little bit more challenging. It's more of an uphill battle without the preparation.
You are listening to The Dr. Haley Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you optimize your health. Each episode, there will be an interview or a message to help you discover better health. We will be featuring health radicals on the show to bring new ideas to the table, as well as doubling down on key fundamentals to support you living your best life. Your host is no other than the founder of Haley Nutrition, Dr. Michael Haley.
This is the Dr. Haley Show podcast. It is not the World of Autism podcast, but it's going to sound a lot like it because today's guest is Dr. Jeffrey Knight, my favorite kind of doctor, a doctor of chiropractic. And of course, he's got a podcast where he helps people navigate detoxification, reduce inflammation, support cellular and nervous system healing. He does that as a doctor. He helps people learn how to do that on his podcast to help with more than autism, but we might call these, well, there's a bunch of related disorders. Dr. Jeff, thank you for joining me today. I'm kind of excited about this because as we talk from a chiropractic perspective, and we could almost have a focus on autism, there are so many conditions that are so similar to autism. And really, it doesn't matter if we're talking about autism or cancer.
Very, very true.
The things that you're doing to get well are very similar.
Exactly. 100%. You're very true. You nailed it on the head there, Doc, because really what we're looking at is imbalances inside the body that show up, and then oftentimes the outside world will put a label on it. And the label can be helpful for maybe insurance purposes or school purposes or other services that you can get in connection to those diagnoses or those labels. But ultimately, it doesn't matter whether it's a child on the autism spectrum or someone that's dealing with, an autoimmune condition or cancer or whatever. We're going to look at things very similarly. It's just, you could say I'm niching into the autism space. So,
well, let's talk about autism specifically for a moment here.
Sure.
And probably more than that even. Is that something that people are born with, or is it something they acquire?
That's a really good question. From all the families I've been working with over the years and from the research I've done, it definitely tends to be more of something they acquire. And I would say there are some rare cases where maybe they are born with some aspects and some different challenges that potentially put them into a category of the autism spectrum. And I can dive into that more, but I would say the large majority is acquired, and then a small minority is where they actually potentially have predisposed things that they received even in utero from mom.
And for mom that's listening that is certain their child was born with autism, it's not your fault.
Exactly.
It could be, but it probably isn't.
Yeah, most likely it's not. You're right. It could be.
But chances are, you're living like everyone else in this world, and you're being programmed by mainstream media, and you're being fed food that isn't food, that's full of chemicals, and really just didn't know better because we're all exposed to the same propaganda. And at some point, like for some people listening right now, this is the first wake-up call.
Yes.
Others, they took the red pill a long time ago, and they're deep into it, deep in the rabbit hole.
For sure.
So, and there's other things too. There's toxins that we can't get away from. We could be living so clean and buying everything organic, even growing it ourselves. But we're in this world where if you look at the sky, you're looking through a haze because it's not clear anymore.
Right.
So we're all exposed to pollution. Is there any such thing as organic anymore?
Good point.
Well, what are some of the conditions that mimic autism or that might be confused with autism? I know that people might have symptoms from mold or heavy metals, or what are some of the things that are confused with autism?
Sure. Yeah, I would definitely say the heavy metal toxicity is a big one. The chemical toxicity, leaky gut in connection to prolonged use of antibiotics can definitely interfere with the immune system and therefore can also negatively affect the nervous system, because creating that leaky gut can also create a leaky blood-brain barrier. And that can be in the form of like glyphosate can definitely have a strong indication for driving in toxins even deeper into the tissue. So glyphosate being the main ingredient found in Roundup, it's a common thing that's sprayed on our crops. And I would also say hidden infections. So such as, we've seen individuals that have had parasite infections to Lyme's disease to even some viral type stuff that can cause or create some of the common symptoms that you might find. At the same time, a lack of oxygen, deprivation of oxygen from childbirth or complications at childbirth, that can also be one of those challenging things, and different traumas in connection to childbirth too. Maybe there was something with the cranial bones of the baby or the cervical spine, the neck of the baby, that just got tweaked or torqued or manipulated out of the proper position, that created a lot of stress and strain on the nervous system as well. So there could be several things. One thing that I found interesting from one family that I was working with years ago, the mom recognized the child's regression with autism symptoms that came about when the father of the home was, again, doing what fathers do, having to spend a lot of time working, being away from the family, oftentimes traveling, sometimes late hours. And so it was as if the son had a regression when dad wasn't around as much because of some of the emotional stress or trauma. And so again, you can never predict that. I mean, there's families that experience those types of things all the time, and kids grow up just fine with no signs or symptoms of any kind of challenge or imbalance, So a number of things can definitely be connected.
Hey, where'd you learn chiropractic?
I went to school up in Portland, Oregon at Western States.
And the reason I ask, as you were talking, you're reminding me of my nutrition teacher at Life Chiropractic in Georgia. And to him, he defined nutrition differently than most people, because most people would focus on what you eat. This is vitamin C, this is vitamin D, and I'm eating, animal foods, and it has all of this in it, and I'm getting my B12, or I'm a vegetarian. And that was nutrition, but that's diet.
Right.
And he talked more about the nutrition being the chemistry in your body, the blood chemistry, the nutrients floating around in your blood, not just the nutrients, but the chemistry, and how you think changes your chemistry. When you sleep, it changes your chemistry. When you're resting, your chemistry is changing. When you're exercising, you're building lactic acid. That's a change in your chemistry. And, you talk about the child that their symptoms changed when the father wasn't around. That emotional trauma is affecting chemistry, and the chemistry affects the way your body functions. I thought it was neat as you were bringing that up. I'm thinking, it makes perfect sense.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and a good book to reference that has connection with that is done by Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but he goes into detail about how our cellular makeup can be affected through emotional and even through our beliefs. So it's pretty eye-opening when you consider that.
Well, that's great.
You enjoying the show thus far? One of the many health secrets that we have covered on the show is all around aloe vera. specifically drinking raw aloe vera. Our aloe vera has helped our customers effectively heal their gut, increase their intestine health, lower inflammation in the body, eliminate and/or decrease acid reflux, have glowing skin and hair, and so much more. Now, as a frequent member of our audience, you will be exposed to exclusive specials and coupon codes for the awesome products manufactured by Haley Nutrition. That's right, for simply being awesome and tuning in, you can get a mini discount to help you optimize and better your health. To see how we can help and support you on your health journey, tune into the episodes and listen for coupon codes that you can use at www.haleynutrition.com before you make your orders of raw aloe vera. Once again, it's www.haleynutrition.com. Now, back to the show.
There's other things we can affect our chemistry with. How are you going about that in your practice, and what kind of changes are you seeing in people that are symptomatic, whether it's called autism or ADHD or any OCD, any number of things?
Yeah. So the approach that we take, we focus a lot on creating a cellular environment that's creating healing. So we focus a lot on preparing the body, supporting the key organs and glands that are designed to help eliminate toxicity. Those would be your liver, your kidneys, your colon, the lymphatic system. So we have a lot of preparation, because if we go straight into trying to detox someone from some of the things we talked about, whether it's a heavy metal, a chemical, or a hidden infection, it can be a little bit more challenging. It's more of an uphill battle without the preparation. So we spend a good amount of time with the preparation, opening up that drainage funnel, giving the body the support it needs so that it can be confident, stable, and ready to actually eliminate the things that it doesn't want. And then from there, then we dive into addressing some of those things by using different products that have binders, different herbs that help kill those hidden infections, and things that can help facilitate removal of the body. All through this journey, though, we continue to make sure that the body's feeling supported, that it's feeling stabilized, it's receiving certain nutrients and vitamins, minerals. We definitely encourage, good diet. Eating as close to Mother Nature as possible is going to help anyone heal better and help that cellular healing happen the way that we would want it to. And then from there, we support the mitochondria through different products. We use some homeopathics, and then we do a lot of focus on gut health and gut healing, and just continuing to support good digestion, good absorption of nutrients, supporting that second brain is what we call it, making sure neurotransmitters can be created properly, and that we're supporting the body specifically that way. And as far as like outcomes and things that we're seeing, even with some of the families that we've been working with, what's fun is we can hear positive things even just from the first phase that we work on of the opening up that funnel, that drainage funnel. For example, I was speaking with a mom just the other day, and she was telling me how her son's verbalization has improved significantly just in the last 4 to 5 weeks of starting the plan and the process of what we've created. His tantrums, yeah, isn't it great? His tantrums and his meltdowns have decreased in terms of frequency. Another parent was telling me, my daughter seems more engaged than ever before. Another family was saying how my son looked more relaxed in a way that I've never seen before as well, where he was just sitting there relaxed, where normally he's just up, moving, constantly going, can't stand still. That brain is just on fire. And where she's like, it was interesting and it was different. So we're seeing some really neat things, better social engagement, better sleep for some of these kids. Bowel movements can be a problem for a lot of these kids, and even improved bowel movements as well. Like one family, they literally had to deliver an enema for their daughter just to evacuate any kind of stool. They had to do that multiple times a week usually, where now they're not reporting needing to do that at this point. So it's been really neat. And again, we're just honoring the body and the beautiful design that it has, and supporting it to allow that wisdom to take place and create the response and the healing that we're striving for. And it's a journey, it's a journey. There's definitely no such thing as a quick fix with any of this. And so it's just patience and persistence in doing good things pays dividends. So,
Yeah. You mentioned hidden infections. What's a hidden
yeah.
infection?
Yeah. Here's the ones we think about the most are bacteria and viruses, right? That's what the world that we live in, that's kind of what they emphasize. You got a runny nose and are sick. You go to the doctors, you get an antibiotic is a typical procedure that they'll recommend. But what's interesting is we will find hidden infections, meaning something other than a bacteria or virus, basically, because it's usually things people aren't always looking for. So that could be a fungal infection, that could be a parasite, it could be Lyme's disease, it could be mold. Those are some of the things that I would say can definitely cause a lot of stress and strain, of course, on the immune system, but definitely on the nervous system as well. And so we focus on making sure if those things are present that we take care of them strategically with the different tools that we're using. So, because I've seen all of those things show up, not in every child, but multiple things in one person is very common too.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And when you said it, I thought maybe you were talking about dental infections, which a
Well,
lot of people won't know they have, but obviously
that,
that could be included.
for sure. And I'm glad you actually mentioned that because that is one of those things that sometimes can go unnoticed for sure. The decay of the jaw, right? Those cavitations definitely could be a big issue. I've seen that with several patients in our office as well. And, with the proper procedures, that can make a huge difference. So, yeah, that would be another good thing to look at. If someone's struggling and they are still not finding answers, then you kind of have to be more of a detective and looking different places. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
And you're probably too young for this, but when I grew up, the dentists loved to drill and fill with mercury. And
Yep.
teeth were not only sources of infections, but toxicity, a continual funnel of mercury to the system.
Yes. Which is so interesting. And yeah, unfortunately, I did receive a mercury filling at one point in my life. Luckily, they're no longer there. But the funny thing with that, Dr. Mike, is that when they remove those silver fillings, those mercury fillings, they have to treat it as toxic waste and, in a sense, almost have a special container for disposal. But then they say it's safe to put in the mouth, and so it just doesn't make sense, does it?
You're so right. I never quite thought about it that way. It's toxic, and they have to dispose of it properly, but they can put it in your mouth. And it's one of those things. You drop the thermometer and it shatters, and the mercury goes everywhere. You run.
Yeah, exactly.
What do I do now? Call hazardous waste disposal. You got to come up with a plan to get rid of that.
That's true. Yep. Call the hazmat people, right?
Yeah. You mentioned when you were talking about diet, I think you said, close to nature, food as
Yeah.
close to nature as possible. What's
Yeah.
your criteria? What does that look like?
Yeah. Basically, say a dish or some kind of food that you're choosing to eat. If you can read and understand what is on the label, that's one thing. I'm not a huge fan of processed things, but that's
Yeah,
better than, the fewer ingredients, the better, the easier to read and understand what it's saying, then the better. So, I would say your vegetables, fruits, meat,
yeah.
eggs, poultry, anything that's coming just straight from Mother Earth is the best. And then, healthy oils, avoid those rancid, inflammatory oils that's called vegetable oil, which is kind of sneaky. It's like that's a little misleading because it's very inflammatory. So that'd be your soybean, canola, a lot of those seed oils basically. But using like butter, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, those are better options for sure. So,
Absolutely. There was a guy I would learn from and used to follow, Jordan Rubin. I don't know where he is these days. I'm sure
oh,
he's
I've heard
still
of
out.
him. Yeah.
But he had three criteria when it came to food. And I think the first one was very interesting. He said, "Is it a biblical food?"
Hmm.
And it makes sense. But more importantly than that was if it was a biblical food, would be okay, is it also a traditional food? Meaning, because biblically, you could have cows, you could eat beef, but cows are supposed to eat grass.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have that cow in a confined animal feed operation stuffing grain and Halloween candy in its belly, it's not real food. And
Yeah.
then the third thing was, what does the science say about it? And, when you marry these things together, it is a real food, it's biblical. What does the science say about it? The science says that grass fed is going to be higher in omega 3 fatty acids, whereas the grain is going to be higher in the omega 6. One's going to be inflammatory, one's going to be anti inflammatory, and
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of other things scientifically you can figure out from there. So I liked that criteria when it comes to food. I like to ask, another question too. Did this food exist 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good point.
You were talking about earlier the Roundup, and what's that chemical in the Roundup?
Glyphosate is the main
Glyphosate.
ingredient. Yeah.
And that was on the news today. I guess it's if I recall, it was Bayer that makes
Yes.
Roundup.
Yep.
And what was interesting is how many lawsuits they are having for that potentially causing some kind of lymphoma. I forget which one it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been linked with serious disease.
Yes.
And yet that is not only used to kill weeds around the house, but they're spraying it in the fields.
Right.
People don't realize that the first GMO, the flagship GMO corn, they made it Roundup ready, which means you could spray Roundup on it and it'll kill all the weeds, but not the corn. And that's how they grow more corn. They get rid of the competition.
Yes.
And it is just toxic to, not only the people in the area that are breathing it, but the people that are eating the foods that are saturated with it, or eating the things that ate the food. They feed it to the cows, eat the cows.
Yeah, that's true. That's horrible. Yeah, the glyphosate. I mean, if you're interested in diving a little deeper on that, Dr. Stephanie Seneff, she's an MIT researcher. She did a whole study on glyphosate, and she showed some unique correlations in the introduction to glyphosate with the correlation to increases in Alzheimer's, increases in autism, increases in ADHD, etc. And there's a fascinating graph that she shares in her research that just shows the scale of where it's like, here's glyphosate usage. And then over time, as it increases, and then you see, and Alzheimer's over time, you start to see some of these things increase in correlation to that too. So definitely an interesting article to check out. Dr. Stephanie Seneff from MIT on her work with glyphosate.
Interesting. Well, let's talk briefly about some of the differences between mainstream medicine and, well, I'm going to call it a chiropractic philosophy or chiropractic approach that you're using in helping people. Because we can look at the same condition and even give it a name, autism, but the way we go about treating it is polar opposite.
Correct.
What are most medical doctors going to? I say most because a lot of them are coming around.
Yeah, that's true.
We have functional medicine. Sometimes there's medical doctors practicing functional medicine.
Yes, that's true.
What does a medical doctor typically do with autism?
Yeah, I would say a lot of them tend to, so there's certain medications they might prescribe. Oftentimes they're more like antidepressant or things that can be, with the intention to affect the nervous system, calming them down. I've had some parents report saying they've witnessed their child just not feel like the lights are all on sometimes on some of those medications. So that is one approach. I wouldn't say it's always the first approach. A lot of times it seems, though, that they will recommend therapies first. So ABA therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. So those are really common introductory places that the medical world will go to with kids on autism. They call it early intervention, and the therapies can be helpful. They can be helpful.
Mhm.
What a lot of parents that I've talked to that have gone the cellular healing route that I propose and focusing more on the inside out approach, they find that the therapies actually work better after, addressing that deeper underlying stressor that's having some challenges with the cells and the nervous system and the gut and et cetera. And so calming down that internal chaos, at that cellular level will then enhance their ability to actually connect and to be able to engage in some of those therapies. So the therapies can be effective. They can be helpful.
I agree.
Everyone does have a little bit of a different take, I would say, on the ABA therapy. I've heard real positives from some people, and I've heard real negatives from some people. So I think that's more for a parent to decide what they feel would be best for their child, because I know some parents that have absolutely loved it, and I know some where they're just like, there's no way I'm going to have my child do that. It just won't work for them. So I think that's another critical thing is, thanks to the world we live in now, a doctor can be a sign of authority. Fortunately, with the world at our fingertips, thanks to technology, we can do a lot of research. And there's some parents that know more about their child's condition than maybe the doctor they're sitting in front of, So, which is great. It gives them power and it gives them opportunity. And I always encourage any parent, especially the mothers, don't ignore your mother intuition when it comes to helping your child. But yeah, I would say medications, and then the therapies are the most common. Sometimes you'll hear of some kids doing physical therapy, but the occupational therapy can be powerful. Just the movement and just, you remember learning in school the importance of crawling for an infant before walking. Like even just crawling can be so powerful for that brain and nervous system to connect some dots, and the wiring of that nervous system as the body's trying to connect with that brain, and that functional movement is so critical. And there's some kids, they might skip that, and that can definitely create some different challenges with the neurology and even some of the symptoms that these kids experience. So sorry, kind of rambling there, Dr. Mike. So.
No, it makes sense. And some kids are actually sent back to that by their healthcare professional. Forget how to walk for a while. You got to do some crawling again. Cross crawling, start reconnecting those wires or connecting them for the first time.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, math skills go up and all kinds of things. As a thank you for tuning into the Dr. Haley Show podcast, I have a special coupon code that can be used now and throughout the month of March 2026. Get $10 off your purchase of $100 or more at HaleyNutrition.com. The coupon code is BLOOM10. That's BLOOM10. And as usual, you can even use this coupon with on sale and already discounted bundled items. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. You used a term, and it kind of makes me smile because I don't know if everyone quite gets it the way we do. It's been pounded into us, this concept of, and they even gave it an acronym, ADIO, above, down, inside out. And you used it casually in the form of inside out.
Yep.
Explain that a little bit in these terms of treatment and how the different treatments are, above, down, inside out versus outside in.
Sure. Yeah. So above, down, inside out is honoring the body's innate wisdom, right? The innate intelligence is a common term we'll use in chiropractic, where the body's designed to heal itself, right? It's self-healing, it's self-regulating, it's controlled and mastered. That master control center is the nervous system. So just simply put, if you and I get a cut in our hand, give it 2 weeks, it's healed up, right? The body knows how to do that. As far as like self-regulating, we don't think about how many red blood cells our body makes on a daily basis and when we're going to recycle those red blood cells. but it just does it naturally. It just does it naturally. You mentioned biblical. So, using the analogy of understanding a divine creator too, that there's systems in place. We talk about the solar system, and again, this is kind of a roundabout way of getting to your question. So just bear with me, but we talk about the solar system. It's very predictable. We know when the moon's going to be full. We know when, if we put our telescope out, we can potentially see Jupiter in the distance if it's not too cloudy or not too much pollution out there. But same with our body. It's got systems that are built in place, and they're predictable. And we can know just by the divine design that it's capable of creating that healing. I mean, one of the most beautiful examples is a sperm and an egg coming together, and 9 months later, we have this beautiful child, right? So that's the top-down, inside-out approach. Is we're giving the body the tools, and we're stepping back and saying, you got it from here. Like, I'm just your servant. I'm here to help facilitate. One of the ways I like to describe it is, I'm the orchestra director, but I'm not playing the music. I'm just trying to make sure everyone's showing up to practice, and that the tubas aren't messing around, and the clarinets, not skipping out, and the violins are doing their job. And I'm just being observant and aware, and trying to say, okay, what is the body trying to tell us? And how can we make sure to give it what it needs so that it can start to create that healing response? Hopefully that explains it well.
It does, but don't forget the drummer. You got to have a drummer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The drummer. Yes. Got to have the percussion. It makes a difference without a doubt.
Yeah. The above, down, inside out is, we can look at it and say, well, in the body, the brain controlling the nervous system, controlling everything in the body. But you can also say God above, into us and out, his expression through us. The life that is in us is so much smarter than we are. And that doesn't make sense.
Yes.
But because if it's in us, then how come we don't have that smarts? We do. We're just not tapping into it.
Yes.
And when you give it what it needs, it does so much better than we do with our cognitive thinking, our consciousness. And even as doctors, it's funny. I like to help people listen to God more than me. I have an aloe vera company. If you look behind me here, it's a green screen, but there's a field of aloe.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will ask me, how much aloe should I drink? And sometimes to get them to the right answer, I'll play a game with them. I'll say, you should have, a half a teaspoon every day. And I think I should have more than that. I'm just kidding. Drink a whole half gallon every day. I'm not going to drink a half gallon every day. What were you hoping I would say? Well, I was hoping you would say 3 or 4 ounces. Well, that's probably right for you then.
Yeah.
You knew the answer that's right for you. And, we just went through a mental gymnastic so that you could figure out what that was.
Yeah. That's great. That's a good way to put it.
The life and the knowledge that is in you. When we make choices about what we should eat, sometimes we're disobeying what we know we should be paying attention to. I know I shouldn't eat this. And sometimes that's okay. I'm going to have a recreational food. And sometimes the pleasure is more important than the benefit that a better option would bring.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, when we listen to that voice, we make better decisions.
I love it. Amen.
Yeah, it makes sense. What about inflammation? And for me, because inflammation is probably the root of every disease. It's involved in every disease process.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time seeing kids as having inflammatory problems, but they do. I don't have a hard time seeing me having inflammatory problems because I played pickleball. I can't move the next day.
Sure.
But that didn't happen when I was a kid. How inflamed are kids these days?
Yeah, the inflammation with kids these days, again, it's just the compounding effects of things that we've already talked about, the toxic world we live in, a lot of things that we just can't escape. So many different things that happen with the habits, the SAD diet, right? The standard American diet that we're exposed to, and oftentimes have no clue that it's as bad as it really is until maybe later on. So I think it's a lot of just unfortunate habits, practices, traditions, and then a little bit of carelessness as far as, profits over people and being willing to push certain things that are better for someone's pocketbook than maybe their bodies and the future of our children as well. So there was a study done by the Environmental Working Group that was really interesting, and they actually studied the blood of a newborn baby, so the umbilical cord blood of a newborn baby, and they found there was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 100 to 200 chemicals found in the cord of a newborn baby. And it's like, how is that possible? They just came out of the womb. And again, is it the mom's fault? You know what? Probably not, because where she's living and the things she's been exposed to in her life, it just will accumulate and build up inside of all of us. And so there's this concept of generational toxicity. And that's kind of more going back to what you asked originally is it acquired, or are they born with it? And I would say some of the kids are born with it because of generational toxicity that comes from mom, grandma, and great grandma. It can go past 4 generations. There was a biologist named Michael Skinner that did an interesting study on that with rats or mice. I can't remember which one he was using, but they discovered generational toxicity in these animals and how it was being passed 4 generations down the line. So you add that plus everything else that has happened over the years, the way that things just continue to advance in terms of manufacturing practices. Our farming practices aren't what they used to be. The soil is depleted. Unless you're getting 100% organic, that's tried and proven. But even then, as you said, still there's stuff that gets in the air and can
not
land.
The Garden of Eden.
It's not. Yeah. So those are the things where we find ourselves in trouble and why kids are more inflamed now than ever. And then you combine the lifestyle too. We're more sedentary than ever before. Our ancestors had to get out in the fields. They had to go out and work. They had to go chop down trees. They were physical in what they did. Now we've got great technology that is a blessing, and there's a wonderful purpose for all of it. But if we're not careful, we can get stuck and have these kids get stuck behind a tablet, a computer, a phone, a TV, video games, etc. And that can just lead to, some awful habits that can create some inflammatory issues too, just through lack of good movement, right? And being outside and being in the sun. So those are a lot of things that I think can all add to why we're seeing more inflammation at the level of these younger kids, where, like you said, used to be just like being old and talking about your joints, but now we're seeing like it's more than just the ankles and the knees and the hips. This is cellular inflammation. This is something that can be really problematic. So
well, Dr. Jeff, tell us where people can go to find out more and some action steps that they might take, whether it's subscribing to or getting more information from you or seeing a chiropractor. Tell them about the podcast.
Sure. Yeah. I've created a podcast. I'm not as active and as good at it as Dr. Mike, but it's got about 19 episodes. It's called The World of Autism, and it's with the hope and desire to create insight and tools that families can implement to help them in their autism journey. I've got some great guests on there that talk about some different techniques and strategies that can be really helpful. As far as like connecting with me and being able to engage with me and the program that I'm offering that's focused on cellular healing for children on this autism spectrum, the best website is called healthempoweredfamilies.com. And there's a way where you can put your name and email, and you can have access to watching a free training I put together that talks more about cellular healing. If you find it to connect with you and it makes sense as far as the whole concept of cellular healing and detoxification, if it's something you haven't tried or implemented for your child that's on the spectrum, then you could actually schedule a consultation with me. And from there, we can decide if it even would make sense to work together. So the consultation is very affordable. It's only $37. And it's an opportunity to just spend some time with me on a call similar to this, a Zoom call. And that's a great way to get connected. Other things that I would recommend. So just some good, easy, actionable items that can be helpful. So yeah, definitely chiropractic can be a powerful tool for kids on the spectrum. Getting the cervical spine adjusted, especially, that upper cervical area, can be a powerful thing. But just regular adjustments can really help calm that nervous system, as well as help support better function to the rest of our body, our organs, glands, etc. Those are great tools. Other tools that I would also recommend is some things that can also be helpful. I don't know if you've ever heard of the ion foot baths. Those are interesting, where they can actually help facilitate better detoxification. That can be a beneficial tool. And then, going to something real simple is nutrition. We talked about good oils to cook with. That's a great one. So don't feel like you have to change everything. All you need to focus on is exchanging, not necessarily changing, but exchange the bad oils with better oils, or the bad fats with healthier fats. And that can be a really powerful thing. I know of one patient in our office, a gentleman. So he's not on the autism spectrum. He's an adult. And just by getting rid of seed oils, so many symptoms that he was dealing with have disappeared just by eating cleaner. So it's been amazing just to see what's worked well for him, just for one simple exchange. Replacing that with a better option has made a huge difference with some chronic digestive stress he was dealing with, and made a big difference. So hopefully that's helpful, and definitely look forward to connecting with anyone in the future.
Amazing. Dr. Jeff, what do you do for fun?
You know what? I like to play pickleball as well. That's something I do enjoy. And honestly, probably chasing around my kids is probably a big source of my fun and enjoyment, being able to support them in their activities and sports. My wife and I, we have 6 children, 2 boys and 4 girls, and they're a great joy. So that's something I also enjoy.
I think that's called a full quiver.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Hey, thank you for joining me today. And people, there will be links to his content below the video, on the podcast page, wherever you're consuming this. Look in the description, and you should be able to click right to Dr. Jeff's content. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode today on the Dr. Haley Show. Make sure to hit subscribe on whichever platform you are listening to this. If this episode made you think of someone, go ahead, take a screenshot, and share this exact episode with them. You can catch the show notes for this episode on www.drhaley.com. If you want to geek out with Dr. Michael Haley on other radical health topics, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, where he posts exclusive video content. All the details are at www.drhaley.com, and we can't wait to hang out with you on the next episode.